Welcome to the Binge. Tonight we're diving into a story that's older than your favorite conspiracy theory, but just as unsettling. The year is 1455, Mainz, Germany, and someone just built a machine that could change the world, the printing press. But here's the kicker. It wasn't just a machine for books, not really. It was a system, a network, a carefully controlled experiment in influence, behavior, and power. Financiers pulling strings, secret vaults of withheld texts, distribution maps that read like early algorithms. Cities manipulated, information curated, ideas seeded or suppressed with surgical precision. Every page printed, every copy circulated. It wasn't just information, it was data. And you, who were the readers, were part of the experiment, whether you knew it or not. This isn't just history, it's a blueprint. A simulation of society before computers, before social media, before anyone realized how pliable reality could be. And if you look closely, you can still see the patterns today. So, sit back or pace or fidget with your phone, but know this. For 600 years, someone has been quietly running the experiment, and you're still inside it. This is The Binge.
It's the Binge Podcast where everything's a blast. It's the Binge Podcast. Come join us fast.
Okay. The year was 1455, Mainz, Germany, a city that smells like wet stone and yeast, like the persistent residue of everyday human labor that sticks to your boots if you're unlucky enough to walk the cobblestones after the morning market. And somewhere in that city, a man named Johannes Gutenberg is tinkering with a machine that, in the span of a decade, will tear open the world like a cheap paperback ripped in half by an impatient drunk. The press wasn't just a press, not in any sense that would survive casual inspection or polite historical conversation. It was a mechanism for the mass reproduction of thought, and thought, let's not pretend, is dangerous. It's corrosive, infectious. It mutates as it moves. It makes people do things they would never do in private. The press allowed that. It was the first machine to make ideas contagious in a way that couldn't be contained. And every time someone whispers, Gutenberg changed the world, they're telling the truth, but only half of it. Johannes Gutenberg, as everyone knows, was an inventor. But the real story, the juicy, unpolished story, is about Johann Fust, the moneylender. The man who didn't care about the beauty of letters, the elegance of movable type. Fust cared about leverage, power, control. He gave Gutenberg the cash to build this infernal machine, sure, but the investment came with strings so tight you could hear them whistling in the dead of night. If Gutenberg failed, Fust took the press. If Gutenberg succeeded, Fust controlled the flow of ideas. The man was a banker playing chess in a world that didn't even know chess existed yet. And that's where the conspiracy begins. Because if you look past the sanitized versions in textbooks, careful, precise, almost antiseptic, you see a pattern. The press was never just about printing Bibles. It was about testing the flow of knowledge. The selection of texts was methodical, strategic, and almost clinical. Religious works, yes, because religion sells and legitimizes and distracts simultaneously. Scientific treatises limited to prevent mass panic. Political pamphlets dripped out in measured doses. Fables and moral stories to shape public morality like clay under a potter's hand. Every choice was deliberate, every decision had a purpose. Someone was running a simulation, and the readers, God help us, were the subjects. The Gutenberg Bible itself is fascinating when you look at its data rather than devotion. Line breaks, typeface choices, even variations between copies suggest that the press wasn't merely reproducing content, it was experimenting with it. How do people respond to aesthetics, to readability, to spacing? Gutenberg, or more likely his financiers, were creating an early feedback loop. Certain monasteries got multiple copies. Certain cities received none. A map of distribution exists if you dig hard enough into the archives. And it is staggeringly precise, as if someone had run a predictive model centuries before predictive policing existed. Let's talk Venice, because Venice is where the stakes go nuclear. The guilds there monitored presses, censored texts, and controlled output with an obsessive eye for patterns in literacy, curiosity, and susceptibility. Paris, by contrast, leaned on the Sorbonne, demanding pre-approval before printing, and everywhere the same dynamic repeats. Information as a controlled commodity, its flow manipulated, its consumption monitored. Print wasn't just a medium, it was infrastructure. It was, in retrospect, proto-digital. Think about it. Each book a packet of encoded instructions, each distribution decision an algorithmic choice, each reader a node in a vast, nascent network. Now, let's make it more disturbing. There are letters, fragmentary, easy to dismiss, mentioning secret libraries in Mainz, vaults where controversial works were held until social conditions were deemed acceptable. Suppression, not for safety, not for ethics, but for control. History itself was being curated, not in broad strokes, but in precise surgical slices. And if you want to dig further, the pattern persists across Europe. By 1476, Parisian printers were already navigating licenses and approvals in a way that reads more like software versioning than civil regulation. Control the medium, control perception. Control perception, control reality. Fast forward to Luther, 1517. The theses that lit the Reformation could not have existed without this infrastructure, but even that explosive moment, the apparent spontaneity, was conditioned by the system. Timing, distribution, the quality of the paper, the readability of the typeface, the channels of transport, the relative literacy rates in specific cities, all of it formed a predictive model, not formally, not mathematically, but functionally. The system knew, in some sense, what it was about to unleash, and maybe that's the point. The Gutenberg press is remembered as an invention, a mechanical marvel, a quote-unquote good thing that happened. But beneath that legend lies a different truth, a controlled experiment in the behavior of humanity. Every printed page was a data point, every reader an unwitting participant, every city a test case. This was simulation before computers existed, social engineering at a scale and sophistication that makes modern tech execs look like fumbling amateurs. Even the errors, the smudges, the misprints were data, observations, feedback, and every time a copy survived or didn't, the operators of this system learned. Not consciously, not necessarily intentionally, but as a byproduct of the press's existence. Information was flowing, knowledge was migrating, and the world, for the first time in recorded memory, became malleable. And if you really want to twist your brain, think about this. What if this pattern, distribution, selection, suppression, dissemination, wasn't just a historical artifact? What if it's a template, a proof of concept for every algorithm, every social network, every information pipeline we willingly surrender ourselves to today? The Gutenberg press didn't just print books. It printed the very notion of influence, of networked cognition, of reality as a manipulable system. We just didn't know it yet. You want to know what the fucked up beauty of it is? Even now, 600 years later, we still haven't escaped it. Our social media feeds, our curated news, our algorithmic suggestions. Do you see the resemblance? Node, network, node, feedback, manipulation. The press was the first interface. And history, when stripped of myth and hero worship, looks less like a straight line and more like a simulation running in slow motion. The press was an engine of thought. But more than that, it was an engine of behavior. Ideas were code, readers were variables, and the operators, the financiers, the guilds, the shadowy figures behind the presses, well, they were already running the simulation. The world may think Gutenberg merely changed how people read, but the hidden story, the story that stinks like whetstone in Mainz on market day, is this. Gutenberg didn't just print Bibles. He printed a template for reality, and for 600 years, humanity has been reading along, completely unaware we're still in the program. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe.
Tune in right now. Got stories to tell, from the small to the grand, all under one spell. We talk about this, we laugh about that, from the strange to the bliss. Get ready to chat. It's the Binge Podcast, where everything's a blast. It's the Binge Podcast, come join us fast. Right now, got stories to tell, from the small to the grand, all under one spell. We talk about this, we laugh about that, from the strange to the bliss. Get ready to chat. It's the Binge Podcast, where everything's a blast. It's the Binge Podcast, come join us fast. Where everything's a blast. It's the Binge Podcast, come join us fast. Tune in right now. Got stories to tell, from the small to the grand, all under one spell. We talk about this, we laugh about that, from the strange to the bliss. Get ready to chat. It's the Binge Podcast, where everything's a blast. It's the Binge Podcast, come join us fast.